Hello and welcome to Save Your Sanity. This is our live stream. Today I'm here with my guest, Dr. Gary Salazar, the author of Safe to Love Again. And we are going to be talking about how can you be feeling safe to love again after a toxic relationship. Thanks for joining me, Gary.
And thanks for inviting me, Rhoberta. Always a pleasure to be with you.
We've spoken so many times, so know that you can go back and find episodes with Dr. Gary Salyer, and know that as you hear all the wonderful things he has to say to you, you can find him at garysalyer.com. So, feeling safe to love again, let me tell you a little bit about my dear friend, Dr. Gary Salyer. He is a transformational relationship mentor, and he has been in private practice offering singles and couples heart centered transformation so they can rewrite the rules of love in their brains and create a love that lasts. He's spoken to many national audiences. He's been on celebrity TV, Coast to Coast AM, and he is a powerhouse of helping you to feel safe to love again. So, wow, when people are in a toxic relationship and they get out, Gary, what I really notice about my clients is that they say, okay, great. Now I'm going to go and find another relationship. And I'm like, whoa, no, not so fast. What do you say?
Well, there is that, when you get out of a toxic relationship, it's almost like if you've ever been underwater in a pool and you think you're drowning, right? And when you get up, you want that air and you want it right away. Well, that's how it feels, but you've got to take some time to heal up. When you're in a toxic relationship, like say you're with a narcissist and, you know, you know, there's 6 to 15% of the country that's estimated to have that, right? Your world has been turned upside down. North is south, south is north, east is west. And you don't even know your own truth. If you've been gaslighted, you've got to be able to center yourself to know what your own truth is before you can, attract somebody who can reflect back your truth. I mean, it's as simple as that. When you come out of a toxic, you're either scared and some part is defending against it, or you've had this incredible place where your mind has been twisted around so many ways that you don't know what you really need.
Well, I agree with that. And also, when you get out of a toxic relationship, you are starving for love. You're starving for attention. You're starving for validation. And so you go looking for it. And you know what you're going to find? Another toxic relationship if you don't heal, because there you are looking in all the right places or the wrong places, but people will be attracted to you because you are eager. And you will not have healed to be able to calibrate whether this is good for you or it is not, whether this is love bombing or it's real. And if you don't really take the time to recover and rebuild and heal, you will just be running around looking to get your needs met, and you will be such a hijackal magnet.
You will. Well, we know from like attachment, adult attachment, that even if you're one of those really lucky ones that was gifted with a secure love style, if you are in a toxic relationship, there is no way that it doesn't rewrite some of your attachment. So if there's no way you don't start feeling unworthy to
Right.
some extent. Disempowered is a huge one. Maybe not welcome, certainly not so much cherished. And whatever those feelings are, that's what our brain is using to attract. I talk about this all the time in my book, that whatever feeling we have, that's what we attract. If you feel unworthy, you tend to attract someone who's a taker. If you feel disempowered, you'll find someone who's a dominator. Until you've taken the time to heal and reset those that you have a right to feel welcomed and empowered and cherished, your brain will subtly find what it's got the rights for. You've got to be able to do the reset so you can actually not go into the same thing. This is how Groundhog Day keeps repeating
Yeah.
over and over again, and nobody wants Groundhog Day.
No, and this is why I've had clients who have come to me and said, I have been with or married to 5 hijackals in a row. Why? Well, it's that very thing. You did not take the time to get some help to heal, to understand what had happened, to understand why it happened, to be able to erase and replace things within yourself to be healthier. And so all hijackals look great at the beginning. Have you noticed? Because they are love bombing. They are heat seeking missiles, heat seeking predators looking to find someone who's pre groomed. So you've been pre groomed in a toxic relationship. They're not going to have to do much work. And so you want to be healthy and have removed your pre grooming so that they do have to show who they really are and work. And that's an important piece for you to take into account because, as Gary was saying, you've got to rewire the brain in a little bit to get it going in a forward direction that is healthy for you.
Yeah, our attachment systems, our relational brains are dynamic. It's always, adjusting to what's there. So you've got to help it. You got to love your brain enough to help it readjust. Sometimes I think of it as letting your soul catch up. You've got to take the time. There was a story I heard years and years ago in a sermon that I can't even remember, but the story went that there was a young missionary couple that landed in Africa, and they had guides that would guide them to the middle of the continent where they would have their first mission, and they were eager to get there. It was about a 2-week walk, and every day that the people that were leading them would take a 15-20 minute break and go on. But about a week into it, the men who were protecting them just stopped, and they didn't get up after the break. And this couple is getting all antsy and getting all frustrated, and they go up to the lead guy and says, "Hey, we let's get going." And the guy says, "No, the men have been traveling for a week. They're waiting to let their souls catch up."
Well, that's right. And that
Yeah.
is the subtitle of the book that Charles and I wrote.
Mhm.
And we tell that story in there.
Oh, you guys do?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I did not know that. I heard it years ago.
Yeah.
But you've got to let your soul catch up because there's been damage, and it's the best way to love yourself. Restore those feelings so that hijackals love. They can sense when you don't have a full right to love and be loved right back. That's
Mhm.
that's easy prey, you know, because if they can sense that, then they know they're going to get their loving more than they have to give out to you, and that's exactly what it means to be hijackal bait. Somebody can sense that they can manipulate those feelings of unworthy or disempowered to their gain.
Yeah.
And when you feel more worthy and you feel more empowered and cherishable, you tend to just kind of be like that mosquito repellent, that just repels them because that's just too much work for them.
Exactly.
They'd rather go to somebody that doesn't feel that way. So the best protection against toxicity is to find out that is to do the really deep work until you know in your guts you feel worthy. And when worthy people, when you meet them, yeah, you could attract them on a dating site, but when you're worthy, it'll just bounce off. When you're empowered, no, no, I'm not going down that road. It's not about resisting what you had uh, that was painful. It's about having the feelings that attract someone who's secure.
Exactly right. And it's important for us to give ourselves that time to let our souls catch up. It's important to feel that you deserve that. Many times you just have been running as fast as you can, not sitting down, not reflecting, not being self aware because you couldn't. And then once you can, once you're on your own, you have to cultivate that habit of actually sitting down and saying, where am I in all this? Who am I? Who do I want to be? How do I recreate my life? How do I become fresh and new to myself? How do I live my values and my beliefs and my mission in life? These things are, I don't mean to put a big point on, you got to do something phenomenal with your life. I'm not saying that about mission. I mean, who are you and what do you do and what do you want and how do you respond to humans and how do you treat other people? To reflect on all that because everything got warped. or as Gary said earlier, everything was upside down. And at a minimum, it got warped. And so you are not dealing from a very equal place, from a very egalitarian place. You may have to grow into being worthy, as Gary says, or feeling like you deserve as much as you give. And you have been with a hijackal, so you know that they demand that you be an overgiver because they're going to be an overtaker. So there's another reason, isn't it, Gary, to do the work?
It is. And if you're out there listening, when you get out of a toxic relationship, there is a lot of times they have broken. It feels like you're broken.
Mm-hmm.
But if you concentrate on your brokenness, it becomes a self defeating cycle. Yes, there are some things that need healed, but the big thing is to start surrounding yourself with good friends and people that can mirror your wholeness to you. Start looking for your wholeness. That's the first step, because that's the one thing that somebody in a toxic relationship begins to gnaw away at is, and we all have, places where we have our good and our bad and our strong and our weak. We all, I like talk about, we have a right to be flawed and fabulous, but don't let the flaws become the major focus. Um, Take time to realize and to reclaim all the fabulous things. That's where if you want to talk about a law of attraction, that's where it's at, is when you walk in knowing that, you have a real good, it's okay to create a different experience. That's,
Mm-hmm.
and it's all of our humanity. But let's concentrate for a while on the good stuff and not all the stuff they took away.
Yes. And if by any chance you had a hijackal parent, then you are going to reflect on the fact that there was familiarity in this hijackal relationship you had as an adult. And so there's more work to be done to find that maybe you weren't welcomed by joy, as Gary says, in your when you were born into your family, or something fell apart and it didn't happen like that anymore. Well, you have to deal with that too. And it's not like, oh my goodness, in therapy, everybody wants to go back to my childhood. You know why? Because there is the answers there. There are things that happened before you had the same level of cognition that went into you emotionally and may still be affecting you.
Exactly. Exactly. Early on, if you live with a hijackal parent, or even if they're not totally full blown hijackal, maybe they're just a low jackal, as we use, as we talked about one time, you know, um, your brain gets used to surviving a certain part of it. This is a very primitive part, more of your reptilian brain. And it only uses one criteria for survival. Did I breathe through it? So that's really great. That's really great if you live through welcome and worthy and cherished and empowered and protected and loved and lovable. But what if you live through unworthy or disempowered? This is the bug in the program. Your brain says, oh, that's survivable. We can breathe through that. Let's have that again. And that part of your brain also runs attraction. So it's really important to get that part, you know, safe with surviving something better. And if we, and, when I go back to, my childhood with a borderline mother, I got used to surviving distance. It's not an accident that I created it in my first marriage, and then I married it in my second. Distance. It was, and I thought these were very different women, and God knows they were, right? But the equation underneath, the relationship still had distance. One I insourced, the other one I outsourced. But once I change that, then it's okay to belong. Then it's okay to be in a we. You got to work with things like that, because if you don't reset whatever that equals, you learned it equals breathing, whatever you breathe through, that becomes the very thing that your system is looking for. And
Mm-hmm.
it's adjustable. It's adjustable. And that's part of the reason why people tend to keep attracting more and more of the same thing.
Sure. Because once we set a pattern, we can see it. and would say, "Oh, I'll have some more of that. I know that one." It's
Yes.
like that story about the fellow who wanted the most exotic car he'd ever seen in a exotic car magazine. He saved up $160,000. He ordered it. He waited 6 months for it. He'd never ever seen one in person, never seen one anywhere in his whole life. And he was so excited to have this unique car. So he finally took delivery of it, got the keys, drove it off the lot, and on the way home, he saw six of them. Right? Because now his brain had a pattern for it, and all of a sudden he saw it. And you're like, oh, I know about that. So when we're talking about how the brain creates patterns and pathways, it's really important to realize that if you spent 20 years with a hijackal parent during your formative brain development, because our brain grows till we're 30, not much after 25. But, during that very important part, that's where you got your idea of who you are, how the world works, how relationships work, whether you have all those things that Gary was talking about, you're worthy and you deserve and you have rights and all of that, or it was like, no, don't be anywhere near me. Don't even speak. Maybe you suffered childhood emotional neglect or adverse childhood experiences that set you up to be just a wonderful pickings for a hijack call. So let's go to today's topic is how can you feel safe creating love after a toxic relationship? We've I think we've pretty thoroughly said give yourself a while. People ask me how long that while is, and I say one trip around the sun
Yes.
without. That's a year. Get some help, plan to recover, make it a priority, then maybe do that. What do you say?
Some statistics suggest it takes 3 to 5 years to generally heal up from a divorce. Doesn't mean you can't start dating, but a good year off is good. It's good, especially if you've been in a long-term relationship
Yeah.
that's been really, really toxic. And now there's another side to this that shows up too, is if you've come out of that, there's been all sorts of defenses, and you've got to be, if you're in that sort of relationship, you have to be looking out for when someone is going to take advantage of me, or when someone's going to cheat on me, or when and when you get into another relationship, your brain will still be looking for that abuse. And a brain in search of evidence will find it. And the next person can, now, this is the weird thing about this. If you haven't healed it, you can project it on them.
Yeah.
You're looking, so every little thing will look like the same thing, when in fact they may very well not be. And you can very well drive away a really good person, and then you say, well, where are all the good ones? So
Yeah.
it's really important that you give yourself time to reset those times, because the brain was just trying to keep you on the planet, and nothing is wrong. We're not making any part of you wrong. What we want to do is give it a better deal, a better deal. To realize that yes, there are certain people out there, but to know that there are also some very good people out there. And now the issue is, how do I get myself ready for that? I keep saying it, but everybody who on the planet who has what's called a secure attachment, those are the ones that pick and create and keep good relationships pretty naturally. They are all in relationships where they're good at receiving and giving. They
Right.
expect to be welcomed with joy, worthy, cherished, and empowered. Now, if you're being defensive, you won't be as good at giving it to them. Since the secure are used to receiving, if you're not good at giving those feelings because you're defensive, they won't, they will tend, you'll get some broken relationships that way. And then you think, oh, this whole thing of love is so painful. I'm being rejected. It's about allowing your system to feel safe enough to be in a we and to give and receive those feelings. Whatever that work is, you work with a coach, a therapist, you have to be able to restore. Everybody was born to feel welcomed and worthy and cherished and
Mhm.
empowered. Those feelings, they need to be like running right in your heart, in your body. And when you feel them, then you're ready. Until
Mhm.
And you don't have to be 100%. No one's perfect, right? But until you do, then you'll kind of take BS or give BS. And when you, and in relationships, that doesn't work. You want to be able to come from a place also where there's not a grievance. If you come in feeling aggrieved from your last relationship, you tend to create court cases in your mind against the next one, because the brain is set for that sort of identity. You have to be willing to give up that past pain and release it to be able to create something new.
Mm-hmm. And that's why you do the work again. But, I talk, Gary, about the three must haves of a healthy adult relationship, any healthy adult relationship. And they are equality and equity,
Mm-hmm.
reciprocity, and mutuality. Now, when you're in a relationship with a hijackal, none of those things are possible or present. So
Mm.
if you have not experienced it, you have no template for it. So again, you have to rewire in order to be able to imagine an equal and equitable relationship where each person gives and each person receives, and each of you have empathy and the other's back, and walk beside you, walk ahead of you when you're afraid, walk behind you when you're leading, and it all works beautifully because it has balance. And that may be something you haven't experienced. So we need to create that. So I think we've spoken enough about do your work. But then when you get out there, how do you calibrate what's going on? What should a person look for to say, this seems to be a safe place to invest a little time and energy?
Okay. So what you were previously talking about is what I call the we. You know, I think the first thing is there a we? Does someone share influence with you? Do they invite you into a place where you are co-creating and you're partners in teamworks? There has to, I always think that when I'm looking at what people should be looking for, if for a long-term relationship, how good is that we? And do you feel good being in one?
And is there a balance between, like I talk about the three entities in a relationship, two me's and a we? Is there
Yes.
give and take? Is there give and take when the a me really needs to take the focus? Is it fair? Is it balanced? And how do you handle that? These things are important. Um, we have some people who are joining us, and Michelle says, very nice how the two of you explain it. Thank you, Michelle. And Anna says, I'm very fortunate to have this kind of relationship. Yes, you are. And thanks for being here and sharing your thoughts. If you have any questions for us, be sure to put it in the chat right now so we can answer that. But here we are, and we're out calibrating, looking for that mutuality that you're talking about, that we-ness, that there is that balance between give and receive. There is that balance between interested in and expressing interest, right? That we know that someone wants to hear us and we want to hear them. And there is that balance, right? People talk about strange things when they get out in the dating world. So if you find I had the experience the other day. I was talking to someone who's on a dating site, and they said, the only thing that person had on their profile, aside from the basic information I guess the dating app gave them, the only thing they had handwritten in was, I'm looking for someone who makes my who will take good care of me.
Yeah.
And I thought, really? You put that on a dating site to let everybody know that you have no interest in anybody else. You are just looking for someone who gets you and will take care of you. I think he said, oh, and he will make me happy all the time.
Oh, so that's a pretty infantile state. I'll be happy all the time.
Yeah.
What we're talking about, you're right. I talk about a right to separate, to be a me, and to belong. Separate.
Mhm.
This is if you've got all me, then you have nothing. There's no
You
glue.
have a hijackal.
Yeah. If you have all we, you've got codependency.
Right.
And I would, when I work with couples, I know that you've got two me's, but the real client is the we. Now, even if there is a time where there has to be an emphasis on the me, the two decide.
That's
I
right.
can see that's what you need. They're still done in a we way. You know,
Mm-hmm.
it's and I think one of it's feelings. The bottom line feeling in a good we is I have a home port from all the stuff that goes on in the world. I have
Yeah.
a home port to shelter myself in their heart. If you
Mm-hmm.
have a home port, a real home port where the ship comes out of the blizzard or the gale and comes in and finds rest.
Hello.
That's a we.
Yes, I'm safe. This is a safe place. And that's what you'll never have with a hijackal. So that's what you're looking for. But do you have that within you? Do you feel safe with you? Do you feel that you can trust yourself? In Kaizen for Couples, my book for strengthening relationships, I talk about the 5 relational gifts, which, if you take the 3 foundations, equality, equity, reciprocity, and mutuality, and you put on top of it the relational gifts, which are honesty, safety, trust, respect, and reliability. Now we're getting somewhere. These are the things we want to be looking for. Is this person honest? Do they feel honest? Do they feel safe to be around? Do you think you can trust them? Do they respect you and do you respect them? And are they reliable? Do they do what they say they're going to do? You can come up with some very simple things to
Yeah.
begin a new relationship with a criteria list like that.
What you're talking about is trust. And a lot of people actually, it's always surprises me when I work with couples how a lot of times they know if there's distrust or not, but they can't define it. And there's a metric for trust from the research. The metric for trust is simple. Will your partner sacrifice your needs for their gain? Will they?
Mm,
That's it. That's the metric for betrayal. Mistrust is called betrayal. When you know that they're going to leverage their interest at your expense. Another way is putting it, they win, you lose. If
mm,
you know that they don't value and protect your interest on the same level as theirs, then that's the metric for betrayal. You can't have a good relationship. And and emotionally that translates as vulnerability. If you
mm,
know that they're not going to use that against you later to win an argument, that's a form of emotional betrayal, right? If
mm,
you know they're not going to put you down for it, that's a form of emotional betrayal. There has to be that place where you feel cherished and protected, all of your interests, all of your emotions. And it doesn't mean that, partners are ever going to be perfect. Partners can sometimes not understand our feelings. There's always an ebb of connection, disconnection, and reconnection. That's it. But good couples, when you get to the other side of toxicity, you can depend on the repair. After the
yeah.
disconnection, there's going to be a repair without it being rowdy, without it being weird, without it being manipulative or controlling. You know that. In the moment that you can count that, okay, we just had a bad day, but we're going to get it together. We're going to make repairs. When you can count on that repair trust, that's when you know you're in a trustworthy relationship. When you can, and you got to have some disrepair and disappointment to get there. So after toxicity, we say we will never have that again. That's not realistic. That's not realistic. And if we want to get out or we get a big emotional, triggered response, we become the person that can't accept or offer repairs. So we've
Yeah.
got to be able to calm our nervous systems down, really work with our body, um, to calm ourselves so that we can calmly respond versus react. And if both people can do that and make repairs and say, hon, can I go back to an hour ago? I was too busy on my phone, didn't hear you, and I'm sorry. I know I hurt your feelings. Tell me now again what was going on with you and your mother. When you can count on that, that's when you've got gold. You just have to, but you do have to allow yourself to calm down enough to be able to receive it, to get
Mm-hmm.
safe enough in your body. Um, I have two friends that are married 45 years together. Grew up with them in high school. And I remember being out to dinner with them, and they got into a fight. And me and my other best friend were over on this side, and we were at a Denny's. And I laughed, and while they were getting into a fight, and I said, "Tell me I don't have to go into a session in the next 5 minutes." And it was funny. She looked at me and said, "Stuff it, Salyer. Give us 10 minutes, we'll get through this."
Yes.
She knew. She
Yes.
knew what was going. Yeah, right. And they were, but they both knew no matter, and they didn't go off weird ends. They didn't get contemptuous and things like that. But they were going at it for about 7, 8 minutes, and then, they laugh and they go, "What are we arguing about?" And they come up to something. That's, but in the middle of the fight, there was never a doubt in either of their minds where it was going to end.
Right.
Something loving. That is what you don't have with a hijackal. And if you calm yourself and you can learn the especially good repair skills, and you have to you set the standard. You're looking for someone who has excellent repair skills, because I've never met the hijackal that knows anything about the R word called repair. They just don't.
No. Well,
So
they're not good at the other R word, relationship, anyway. So if you if you're not good at that, you have no interest in repair.
well, we talk about pair bonding. It's actually repair bonding, because until there's that moment of disruption, you can't get to trust.
Right.
You have to be willing to sit in the fray. Love is daily. It's not perfect. People have to, make adjustments for each other. We will all, 91% of the time, research says that couples are not in an optimal spot to adequately attune. Only 9% does life give us a window that both people are tuned into each other. The other 91% is where we live, and real love has the humility to be able to track those moments. I call it noticing the little moments. Notice the little moments and make repairs as soon as possible. Love is won and lost in little tiny moments, little 6-second moments where you didn't give, you didn't say, "Gosh, that sounds really horrible, honey," or you just didn't pick up on a clue. It's becoming the master of the little moments. Your memory after toxicity will remember all those big ones, and they'll be focused on these big things and avoiding these big things in the past. But what will make a real secure relationship in the present is being enough okay in your body that you can be present and you can respond to these little 6-second interactions, so you both feel like you're present, you're with each other, you're attuned. Bottom line, that's what you're looking for.
And if you've been in a relationship with a hijackal, those 6-second moments have been the good moments. They
Yeah.
have been the moments where
Yes.
you went back to the love bombing and you thought, "Oh, that person I fell in love with has returned." And then they snatched it away because that wasn't the actual person. So when you're looking to date, I think we've gone over a few things. Heal yourself, recover, give yourself time, then get out there and have other people remember this. You're going on a date, that person is auditioning for a starring role in your life. Do not take somebody to be your partner who sees you as a bit player in theirs.
Exactly.
And that's really what we're talking about. We're talking about finding balance. I want you to practice dating. Please do not go out looking for your partner. Go out and practice dating, practice calibrating, practice saying no, practice leaving early, practice all those things that show you can set boundaries for yourself and you're safe with yourself. And then maybe you can date with some intention. But Gary, this has been so good. Do you have a final word for everybody?
Yeah, I do. When you've come out of an abusive relationship, it can reset your whole system. It can turn your north to south and south to north, and they become like a magnet. All that becomes like a magnet. And my favorite line, my personal favorite line in my book is, when you reflect upon past pain, no person, no event, no relationship should ever be given the power to control the rest of your life. Don't
Yes.
give them that much power. Find a way to reclaim your power, to recreate. I call it a right to create your own experience. But don't let any hijackal, any ex, any relationship, any big event, don't it should never be given the power to determine your relationships going forward. Don't let it make you pull back. Don't make it make you be so flighty that you're afraid to commit. You have a right to be the master of your own destiny.
Whoa, yes. And Jackie says, great way to put betrayal, Dr. Salyer. Thank you for the definition.
Thank you, Jackie. I'm glad you. Yes.
Yes. So my last word to you would be my formula. I ask everybody on my podcast and my YouTube channel to write it on the inside of their forehead. And it is ABB. Always believe behavior, not the words, believe the behavior. So when you start dating and you go out with somebody who's offhand, treats the wait staff poorly, asks invasive questions, does all kinds of things that have you going, ooh, and then you're saying, oh no, they must be interested in me. Notice that. Always believe behavior. They're telling you who they are. So thanks for being my guest today, Gary.
Well, thank you, Roberta, and thank you everybody who showed up. And it's always an honor. We always have a very soulful, conversation, Roberta. Thank you from the bottom of my heart.
Oh, you're welcome. So you can find Dr. Gary Salyer at garysalyer.com. It's there on the screen for you. If you want to talk to me, you can go to forrelationshiphelp.com. And if you really like the sound of the words that we've been saying, you might want to come on over and join in today.com. Become a member of my emerging empowered community safely off social media so that you can emerge empowered no matter what has happened to you. Thanks for being here, and I hope you take very good care of yourself because you're precious and you matter. And I hope that we will see you again soon. Bye.